Welcome everyone and shalom. My name is Louise Jacobs and I'm the chair of UJIA. The last 4 days have been the worst in living memory for Israel and for the Jewish people. And every hour brings new horror as we hear the names of those who have been killed in action, who have been murdered and who have been kidnapped by Hamas terrorists. We as the British Jewish community are coming together to support Israel in its very darkest hour. We come as one across all political and all religious divides, attending vigils, reaching out to our Israeli friends and our family, protecting our community and supporting our young people. We at UJIA are particularly focused on the critical needs of Israelis at this time and are making emergency financial support and psychological aid available immediately to Israeli victims of terror, as well as preparing for the long-term recovery that we know Israel will need due to the high levels of trauma and of destruction. We are working with our long-term partners on the ground, including the Jewish Agency for Israel and the Israel Trauma Coalition, as well as smaller grassroots organizations who UJIA has been working with for many years. Please support our efforts by going to ujia.org. Israel needs our help and it needs it now. We are so grateful to our friend Naftali Bennett, the 13th Prime Minister of Israel, who has offered this evening to speak to this community. He understands so well the vital and the unbreakable link between Israel and the Jewish diaspora community. We are so grateful for his service to our people. I would now like to hand over to the former Prime Minister, Naftali Bennett. After he has spoken, Mandy Winston, our Chief Executive, will be asking him some questions. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. And first and foremost, I want to thank you for being here, for caring about Medinat Israel, about the state of Israel, about the citizens of Israel. I literally 3 minutes ago came in from another day in the south with the soldiers, with the communities, with the families. We're experiencing the worst single event in Israel's history and the most horrific event since the Shoah. It's much worse than Yom Kippur War. Because in Yom Kippur War was very tough, but it was soldiers. It wasn't babies. It wasn't young boys and girls. It wasn't pregnant women. And so this is something in a whole different order of magnitude. But I do want to start by saying, yes, this is a huge hit for the state of Israel. But I can also say that the Israeli spirit has never been stronger. And this is not a cliche, this is a factual statement. Just to give you a few data points, but just in a moment, what I want to do is tell you what happened, where we stand, where it's going, and what I could expect from you. But again, as a title, I'll just say that right now, I'll give you a couple of examples. Every unit I visited is at about 130%, 150% enlistment, which means that all the reservists are coming, but also former reservists that, are already 48 years old that left a few years ago are just almost violent in their eagerness to say, enlist me now, give me a rifle, I want to fight. All right, this is every single unit. I'm getting a barrage of phone calls, help me, I need to, so what if I was just until 2 years ago, I deserve to fight. That's what's going on right now across the board, wall to wall. All the lines to the blood donation are 3-4 hours long. All my children are out volunteering right now, teenagers. And I'll just say one of the risks for the soldiers right now is that they'll get too much food because everyone's just out to help degree I've never seen before. So the spirit of Israel is strong. We're talking about lions out there, amazing people. What happened? 6:30 a.m. on Shabbat, Simchat Torah, Hamas infiltrated Israel from about a dozen points, primarily gates in that wall that we have between Gaza and Israel. There's some gates. They very cleverly had a very sophisticated, and I have to hand it to them, a very well-planned operation. I'm not going to go through all its elements, but it was a very smart one. And they took us by surprise, very big numbers. Their goal was to get to the communities and kill and hijack as many Israelis as possible. The real heroes, and I'm talking about heroism that of the type that I grew up on, of like 1967, 1948 heroism, Yoni Netanyahu heroism, are the local civilian defense groups in the communities. Every village, every kibbutz has a small team of designated people who for emergency, just 10, 15 people, and they have rifles, and they're civilians. They work in high tech, whatever, lawyers, you name it. But they're typically reservists from combat units like Golani, paratroops, etc., etc. These young men, roughly, typically in their 30s and 40s, so what they did when they realized what's going on and started hearing rifle shots as opposed to machine gun shots, they put their families, their wife, typically about 2, 3, 4 kids, in the shelter, and they ran out to get a rifle and begin fighting while leaving their family in the shelter. In some of the kibbutzim and villages, these sometimes 6, 7, 8 guys fought off the terrorists and prevailed. So, for example, in kibbutz Nil'am, in kibbutz Alumim, in kibbutz Sa'ad, in kibbutz Mefalsim, all of the kibbutzim, I'm talking about civilians just like me, regular people that they're not soldiers right now, with their rifles. They for hours until Tzahal came. It took too long for Tzahal to come for a gazillion reasons. They were fighting, and they managed to kill the terrorists, and they saved their communities. In other communities, they also fought until the whole team was killed. For example, in Kfar Aza, and in other kibbutzim, till the very last of them was overrun by dozens of terrorists from all around. And the highest grade of heroism, for example, in Kfar Aza, a guy called Aviv Bar'am, Zichro Livracha, so his dad talked to him, and he left his family, went out to fight, killed the terrorists that had infiltrated the kibbutz. His friend got hit, was wounded, and was under fire. He ran to pull his friend, and while doing that, he got shot and died. You cannot believe the degree of heroism, and I'm a very experienced fighter, commander, and Sayeret Matkal, and you name it. These guys, which are just civilians, are showed perseverance, showed the force and strength that I've never seen. Never in my life have I seen. So while we have these Shoah type pictures, let's remember that we're talking about dozens and dozens and dozens of heroes, that some are still alive, God bless, some fell while protecting their families. One of the things that I saw again and again over the past few days, The shelters have a very thick sort of steel concrete door that's bulletproof. What they don't have is a lock, and so much of the experience is you have a woman, a mom, and three children, and she's holding the handle, and the terrorists on the other side are trying to push the handle down, and pretending to be soldiers and pretending this, and it was just in a fight literally of holding that handle, and they're pushing, and you know that if the door opens, they're gonna slaughter your children. And just the most amazing. There was a woman called Michaela from Kibbutz Alumim. She's a nurse in our occupation. She just saved 3 lives, literally, physically. She saved 3 lives. She became the center of Kibbutz Alumim, where they brought all the wounded guys, and she showed heroism under fire, firing within her house. They couldn't do it in the shelter because it wasn't big enough. And she was so resourceful. She didn't have all the equipment necessary. And this Michaela, just a regular mom, she's probably like 43 years old or so. Just a regular mom. What a hero. What a Jewish heroine that we can all be proud of. So I want to tell you that we're a nation of heroes, a strong nation. And yeah, we took a big hit. And yeah, there were huge mistakes made. And we're going to have to learn and fix them ASAP. Mistakes happen. And intelligence surprise, we have to learn. But, you know, Pearl Harbor, Barbarossa, 9/11, Yom Kippur, ultimately intelligence, and I'm saying this as a former prime minister, has its limitations. What you need is the spirit. And I'm telling you that the state of Israel, the people of Israel, all they want to do is go out and fight. They're eager to fight and beat these Nazis. And I never use the term Nazis ever in my life, except for the Nazis. This is the first time in my life that I'm using that term, because they are. They're not the Nazis, but they have the same intent of murdering children, of cutting the wombs of pregnant women. The worst things we can imagine. So they are Nazis, and we need to treat them as such. Where does it go from now? Right now, we're still clearing up the last remnants. There's going to be here and there some fire here and there, but we'll contain it because we're there now, and it'll be okay. Now we have to go on the offensive. Now I want to explain what we're facing. We all talk about Hamas, but it's not only Hamas. There's a front, a unified front, which I view it as an octopus of terror. The head is in Tehran, and it's got arms of terror: Hezbollah, Hamas, Islamic Jihad. And the head in Tehran sort of manipulates the various arms and tells them, now you shoot, now you stop, now you try and do this and that. We have to look at it as a front. When you're fighting an octopus, you don't have to fight this specific arm that hit you. You can fight a different arm. You can fight the head. You can try and cut off the neck. And so I urge you to view it as a more holistic view. Hence, Hezbollah, Islamic Jihad, Iran, they're all one. What we can expect, and what I hope the government will do, is view our enemies as Nazis. And as such, we have to unleash force that we've never before done in Israel. Now, we're not going to target civilians ever. We don't do that. But civilians will likely, if they're next to any area with terrorists, there will be collateral damage. And so be it. We're not going to work with tweezers because they want to kill every one of us. So we, contrary to our enemies, we don't target civilians. But if they cynically continue using civilians as human shields, civilians will be hit. And we have to expect a protracted and immense degree of destruction on our enemy. I'll tell you why. because everyone's looking at us. And Nasrallah right now is thinking, what do I do? Do I enter? Do I not enter? Everyone's looking around. And if we unleash the punishment that's never seen before in this area, then all our enemies will know, don't mess with Israel. And that's where we're going to need you. Right now, there's a huge degree of sympathy for Israel, and everyone understands we're the victim. I don't want to be a victim. It's lovely to have sympathy, but I want to be strong. And for us to thrive here, we have to be the strongest and toughest player in the region. So it's going to go on for a while. There are going to be lots of pictures, but we have to keep on saying these are Nazis, these are ISIS. And I recall in World War II, when the world fought the original Nazis, there was a great deal of destruction in Germany. So expect a great deal of destruction in Gaza against anything that has even an inch of Hamas on it is a terror base. If there's a school that Hamas is shooting missiles from, that's not a school anymore. It's a terror base. Another very good development is that if we had been speaking 5 days ago, we'd been futzing around on the judicial reform and the divide. There's no more divide in Israel. There's no more divide in Israel. No more left and right. There's no more secular and religious. We're all Jews. We're all together, 100%. And now we can look back and ask ourselves, what the heck were we messing around with for 10 critical months when Hamas was building up force? We were messing with all kinds of stupid and foolish endeavors. But that's behind us now, and it's not time for recriminations. We're not into blame right now. There'll be a day of reckoning later on. This is very good news, because our enemies reminded us that we're one, and they killed religious and secular, and we had fallen religious and secular and right and left that could scream at each other on regular days, fought side by side, and sometimes died side by side. So we're one, and this is they unleashed our secret weapon, which is unity, and this is huge news. What do I expect of you? And well, first and foremost, I have to say that I want to thank you, and I want to thank Britain for the clear and very, very clear and no vague support for the state of Israel at this time. There's no balance here. There's no two sides. We need to keep this up, and we need to buy Israel the time, the space to hit very strong. So we're going to need you to continue working with the British public, politicians, to ensure that we have this time and credit to go on and on and on until we win. And secondly, all your direct support is amazing. I would also ask anyone who has family in Israel or anyone you know in Israel, call them up. There's been a national trauma. I can't hide this. Many people have naturally lost confidence, and we're going to need the confidence back. And by talking, you can help them release their feelings. And so those are the asks. I'll take a couple of questions, and I have to get into another meeting right now. So if you want to go ahead and ask one or two questions, I'll try and address it.
Shalom. And we also know that you've just got back from a very, very long day in the field. And it's really quite unbelievable how the world has changed since you were with us in London only 2 weeks ago. I'm going to try and condense some questions, if that's okay.
Sure.
I mean, I think that we're very much focused at the moment on the short term. So really, how are the next few days going to impact the landscape of the Middle East for the long term? What are some different scenarios that you can see?
Well, as I said, look, first of all, I have to admit I'm not part of government. I'm just an Israeli citizen who was prime minister a year and a bit ago. So I'm not in the know of what exactly is happening. What I am expecting is to unleash wrath and fury on our enemies, and it's not going to be beautiful. It's not going to be pretty, but we founded the state of Israel, so there won't be any more pogroms. And there was a massive pogrom here, and we have to restore fear in the hearts of our enemies. Every enemy of ours has to be terrified of the state of Israel, and that's our goal.
I'm going to ask you something. You are a parent, you are a politician, you're a soldier, you are a leader of the Jewish people. And I mean, just the couple of hours before we came on this call, there are incredibly disturbing images on social media. And as a parent, as a leader, what would you advise us to do? We really don't know. Absolutely
do not show it to kids. I talk to my kids. I say, do not look at those stuff. It's it dents your nefesh, your neshama. It's lethal. It's images that we adults also. I don't see much value in us looking at it. I do see value in sending it to the media and to outside for because in order for people to have context of what we're gonna do, they need to know what happened, and because I don't want to hear about a measured response or proportional. There's nothing proportional to this. Nothing is proportional. Nothing we can do will be proportional to what they did. But I tell my kids, do not look at it. Go do things. All my kids, I mean, actually 3 of my 4. My youngest one is at home. He's smaller, and that's fine. But my 3 older kids are all out volunteering all day, organizing food, giving out flags, this, that. So what I tell as a parent, A, don't look at it. B, I explain to my kids in a very mature way what's going on. I don't give all the details, but I do explain in a candid way. So that's the second thing I do. And the third thing is get them working, get them doing, and not just sitting in front of the TV and brooding about it, because that just breaks your spirit, and there's no point.
And as you know, many of us, myself included, with the connection between the British Jewish community and Israel is very, very close. And many of us know people who have been taken as hostages into Gaza. And therefore, we have a question which I think is really important. How do you think Israel is going to respond to the demands of Hamas to release Palestinian prisoners in order for Israeli hostages in Gaza to come home?
I don't want to respond to that. I've got specific reasons. I don't want to talk about what we're going to do about the hostages, but I do want to refer to what you said about how close the British Jewish community is. Look, I was not aware until of the degree of you're just a wonderful community. I'm serious. I think the British Jewish community is just a remarkable, strong, loving Jewish with strong Jewish identity. And I cannot overstate how much it means to us that you've got our back. Usually we've got your back. Usually we're out there for you against anti-Semitism, etc. Now it's your turn. That's how Jews are. It's always that's what Jews do. They care for each other. So I just want to thank you in advance, and we're one family. The people who were slaughtered are your family. We're all one. Personally, I've got a friend that was with me in the army that fell. I don't say he was slaughtered. People who fall in battle are not victims. They're fighters. I've got endless friends who lost their children. I would say about 15, 16 of my personal friends have a boy, sometimes a girl, murdered. One has a girl who's, they don't know what's going on with her. It's very tough. It's very tough. But we can't afford, and we don't have the luxury to be depressed. We got to be strong. We got to be lions, and we're a nation of lions, and we're gonna win. We're gonna get over this. It's gonna be tough. It's gonna take a long time afterwards to recuperate these communities, especially like Be'eri, where roughly 130 people from a small kibbutz were slaughtered. 130, 150. I don't know the exact numbers. It's could not imagine these numbers, and the rest are traumatized by being 36 hours in a shelter and hearing a shelter without a lock, and then hearing the terrorists. So it's gonna take time to recuperate. I know you're there for us, and I want to thank you. Am Yisrael Chai. We're gonna win. We're gonna persevere.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Naftali Bennett, former Prime Minister of Israel. We're going to move very quickly to Emily Pater, who's our Israel director, and I have a question for her, which is the psychological trauma of this sickening attack is going to be long felt. And the question is, what can we in the diaspora do to support the emotional needs and mental well-being of Israelis, not just now, but also in the years to come? And generally, how are you feeling, and how are you, and what is happening with you?
Thank you, Mandy. Well, as you've already heard, we are facing some of the most difficult days ever. We've spent the past few days since Shabbat running to shelters, helping friends to try and find their loved ones who are missing and still unaccounted for. And we've also started to begin to attend funerals. And there is fear, and there's uncertainty, and there's devastation and heartbreak. And yet, we know that we're going to overcome this. You heard from former Prime Minister Bennett about the amazing efforts that are happening all across Israel. Everyone is pitching in to help where they can, and it's really, really inspiring, and it gives a lot of hope in such dark times. But the needs are great, and we can't do it alone. And tonight, rockets are continuing to fall, and families are burying their dead, and loved ones are waiting for the news of the kidnapped. And so I'm asking each of you to help support UJIA at this time, to support our appeal. We're providing immediate assistance of basic goods to families remaining in the south. We're providing equipment for communities in the north who are preparing for the potential opening of a second front on the northern border. And in reference to your question, Mandy, we're also providing trauma relief for bereaved families and those from affected communities. We've already allocated some funds towards that, and we anticipate the needs to be immense, and we'll need to allocate more funds in the future. We're going to build back, and we're going to build back stronger, but we know that the physical and the emotional needs are immense, and any amount that anyone can give will make a difference. So I want to thank everyone that's joined this evening for your support and for your solidarity. Israel needs you. We need you. So please answer our call for help at this time. Thank you for joining tonight. Am Yisrael Chai.